Peace, family. So I'm back with another one. Today what I wanted to do is I wanted to talk to my chosen ones about how universal law and natural law are one in the same. Universal law and natural law is one in the same. And I was kind of talking to a goddess recently, and we was kind of having this little thing back and forth, these explanations. It wasn't no battle or anything like that. She pretty dope. But we're just breaking down the understanding of natural law and universal law. And when you think of universal law, we always understand that it goes with the universe. So you're never just thinking one landmass. You're thinking this entire realm that we are in when you are saying universal law. But then when you say natural law, it almost isolates things into nature or whatever geographic location you're set in. It almost sets it right there for that place. Universal law is laws that's found all over the world. I'll just use human beings just for simplifying things. I know we all are spiritual beings. But universal law would be more based on humans on this part of the world does certain and similar things to humans on the other side of the world. So kind of like we all have to use the bathroom, which is universal law. We all need to feed and fuel our bodies, which would be a form of universal law. You know, spiritually, we know, but we don't have it written down in English words or any other kind of weird text to where it's actually legit anymore. We know universally and naturally what's right from wrong, which is why you can steal from a corporate store and not feel guilty about it, spiritually or outwardly. And you can also have a situation with people around you in your inner space, family, spouse, friends, anybody in this space. You can have a verbal agreement and you'll feel more guilty over not holding up your bargain or not holding up your end of the stick when it comes to, what you're actually supposed to do. These are things that we would put into universal law and natural law. See, we have so many words to use that we can get distracted, we can get misconstrued, we can get thrown off balance just by the wordplay and the usage of it. Some beings, when they think of universe, they process the outer space that we were taught in today's society. Under natural law, under universal law, we would all understand that if we're the spiritual beings on the inside, that means all our thoughts, everything we process on the inside is our inner space. Everything from this water to this grass to these trees, this is outer space. Cars are a replication of spaceships. We've been lied to and warped around a lot. Humans have never left this planet. Spiritual beings, when we're outside of this vessel, have left this planet, but humans have not. Which is why anytime the government, with all the money in the world, always shows us CGI forms of their outside universe, of what they would call outer space. This is why they don't talk about inner space. See, when you understand the magic that's being used, it eliminates a whole lot. So once I was able to process and realize, okay, this makes sense. This is my inner space. Before I use my vocal cords to project everything outwardly to give it more power. That's my inner space. My outer space will be everything outside of my vessel. This is why the schools teach up, down, left, right. They don't teach in, out. We have to do a better job at simplifying things for us, because this society is already crazy. You already got a million battles as it is already. So when you start understanding things and you get into a better starting point, it makes sense when you can align things, okay, after A, there's B, after B, there's C. If we're going by Western alphabet, you probably can use a different alphabet. The letters vary, But as far as the way we're programmed in Western society, B comes after A, C comes after B. So understanding these things, right? Once you get back to natural law and universal law, you'll know that man has a role, female has a role. Man is not a woman, woman is not a man. Now we can start to try to build something bigger and greater than ourselves. But what happens is a lot of beings that were given a false sense of power in this society don't want to let it go. A lot of beings was given a false sense of power and authority in this society and don't want to let it go. And this is why a lot of these beings, even if they saying that they're spiritually connected, because a lot of beings will use, oh, I'm spiritual, and they're a whole spiritual witch and they're a whole spiritual demon. So it doesn't matter if you're saying you're spiritual. A lot of beings just use spiritual because it's a way to not claim any religion, but show that you quote unquote have some kind of connection with source. And that's not always the case whatsoever. You cannot be following under natural law and then making your own rules in the process. That's kind of like Christians who follow the book but then make their own rules for it. It's kind of like Muslims who follow the book but then make their own rules and exceptions for it. These are, when you come across these beings, they half-ass, they half-step, and they don't really follow natural law or universal law. They follow what works best for them. What works best for them. In this Western society, it's easy to have everybody thrown off because you have... I gotta let it pass. In Western society, you have men who have become more feminized due to the chemicals being put into the food, in the water, into all these things, into their teachings, their upbringing, their backgrounds. All of these things, from what they're seeing in real life and on social media, has feminized a lot more men. Then you have, on the other side of the spectrum, women who have become more independent and more masculine. Most independent females it means they're independent from man. When you say independent, that means you have to be independent from something. Man and woman go together. But in today's society, it's not following universal law or natural law. If you follow universal law or natural law anywhere else around the world, man and woman go together. The man is usually leading in some form of fashion, and the woman follows and does a great job at her part, But for some reason, which we all know why, they have to beat us down in the ground. But I always formulate my words like that for some reason, like I don't comprehend. I know exactly why they have to do it. So if you have women who are under universal law or natural law, then they would already understand, okay, I don't have a society set up to where, I believe and I follow my community. I don't have men around that don't want to sexually engage with me that can help me vet, my leader or husband. I'm not against marriage. You can get married, but I am against the system. So you can get married without going through the court paperworks. People were getting married through the Creator long before they were signing some piece of paper to say they're married. This system, signatures, and paperwork doesn't validate a marriage, which is shown by the statistics, you know. And a lot of us are in a point in time in this journey where men is just having too many issues with Western women. Western women are having too many issues with the men here. The trick to this is, right, which we have to be able to think outside of our box and our bubbles. Women in Western society are not going overseas to find another man. You know why? Because men are almost basically the same all around the world. So a Western ideology woman will have a hard time going overseas to get a male because she's not following natural law, universal law. Most of them are in the masculine and they want to lead, be in charge, or in control. You are supposed to be in submission to the Creator and your leader. Now, with that being said, just because you're dating somebody don't make them your leader. That's why I don't believe in that whole process. You know what I mean? Because you're just now getting to know somebody, but then you are supposed to be in this place to where, you know, this man is leading and you're willingly following. But that's never the case when everybody first meet, you know. Universal law and natural law shows and says that men in the Western society, witchy men or non-witchy men, following the Creator or following the demons, men can go to another part of the world and find women who are completely different. Meaning that these women on the other parts of the world who follow natural law and universal law would be more subjective to following this man's lead. See, this when it comes down to taking accountability and just understanding, all right, we was programmed and taught wrong. We was programmed and taught wrong, but a lot of beings have a hard time with understanding these things. Out of all of these continents, all of these countries, all of these cities, all of these tribes, most of them operate almost literally the same way, besides in Western society, within the matrix. You can have the matrix Western society in Europe, you can have it sprinkled in Australia, you got it sprinkled in Africa. Anywhere that it's embedded at, that same ideology has been embedded. And we should already understand most of that is to get away from natural law. You know what I mean? If you are in a position to where you're constantly fighting your biological makeup, then you should already know that you're not following natural law or universal law. These two things run hand to hand, you know? But most of us can look at a million videos on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and we can almost see how brainwashed most, not all, most of the women have been in today's society. And then we can also see how brainwashed and programmed a lot of the males have been in today's society. They start us off extremely late in life. You know, men were grinding and building and supposed to be figuring things out in our early years of life, so that way when we get to that certain level, we can now afford to take care of ourselves. We can afford to provide for, you know, whoever we may have in our space. But it's a process and it's a step, and it's steps to all of this. It's just hard sometimes when you looking at the reality of life and the decisions that was made, and you cannot take back a lot of your choices and decisions that you made, you know, especially when you made unhealthy choices. You cannot take those back. So that's where it really becomes difficult at, and we want to implement our own sauce in order to change the narrative. You know, I would never be a female, and I would never expect a female to be me. I don't look for in females what I give out outside of a few key ingredients. It takes a lot, but only a few key ingredients, you know? Once we become aware of these things that's been happening and taking place, because most of us are all having hard times and difficulties with the opposite sex. I talk to plenty of females, consulting, you know, associates. They have an extremely difficult time with men because they are picking the wrong ones. It's like, it's mind-blowing to me as a female. As a man, we have to shoot our shots, you know. You don't really know which one is actually following source because they all dress alike and look the same. So that means you have to actually make an attempt to get close to the vibration to see how they actually vibrate to know what time it is. But for females, it's like, all you gotta do is pick them by if they are following the creator or source. When you following natural law and universal law, and you look around the world, and at some of these tribes, females don't pick their men based off of their looks. But in Western society, that's how it operates. Females pick men how men pick women. We enjoy the substance. The substance is a mandatory. But we are not that difficult. If we see it, we like it, we more than willing to take care of it as long as it ain't the detriment of our health and our well-being, you know, and everything that we've created or established. But natural law and universal law are one and the same. We can take these animals over here, and most likely if the terrain is set up the same way, they are going to operate and vibrate the exact same way in another part of terrain. A lion is going to be a lion whether it's in a zoo or whether it's in a safari. You know, bears are going to be bears. We do adapt, and you will see them adapt to certain environments, but for the most part, it's a blueprint that we all follow in this realm here, you know. So it's just being mindful of these things, and once we can get back to all of us taking our own accountability for the shit that we done put ourselves through, the shit that other people we done allow people to put us through, you know what I mean? Then we can make some real changes. But until then, it's gonna be hard to make the changes. And as far as for the men, they have to step up and become better protectors than providers. You know, when you're protecting first, you're protecting the spiritual being within, and you're protecting the outside vessel. To me, that's more important than providing. You know, in this Western society, all of that shit is gonna fluctuate. You know, you can have an accident that takes you down, and now you gotta put all your finances into that. You can lose a job, that'll hurt your finances to take you through all of that. You know what I mean? But if you have the strength and the means to protect, then you already know that you leaving yourself and everybody else vulnerable if you don't make something happen. So men, we have to do those things first, you know? But you have to do it with the beings who show you that they're in their feminine and are willing to follow your lead and then be on your mission. Why do we think that women get men's last names? Like, that never is spoken of or talked about. Like, even before I had my daughter, you know, before I had any, I knew if I had a boy, he was gonna keep my last name. He gets to stay Jackson. We get to keep that thing rolling. But for my daughter, she doesn't become, when she gets married, spiritually, because I'm not gonna make her go through the system, court paperwork, documents, and all of that shit. But when she gets married, once marriage happens, the wife takes on the husband's last name because the husband is the leader. The woman follows. I don't know why this becomes so difficult outside of the false sense of power that society has provided for women to kind of just look for these Build-A-Bears. You know what I mean? Like, it's a weird process out here. It is an extremely weird process out here. You know, to the point to where we only have a few more years before everything cycles around and become more healthier than it is now, because a lot of beings are making adjustments. Outside of the ones who just keep throwing it away, you know, there's a lot of adjustments being made. But I ain't want to run it up too long, you know what I mean? Tapping everything down below. Peace and love to the kings and queens.